Taylor Hayes slipped through the shadows of Otakari Laboratories under the cloak of midnight, her heart pounding in her chest like a war drum as she recalled the trail of lies that had ensnared Liam Spencer in a web of deceit. Months ago, she had watched helplessly as her stepson endured what the world believed to be a life-threatening brain surgery, every agonized whisper and false seizure a testament to Grace Buckingham's cruel mastery of illusion. But Taylor, armed with the unwavering conviction that truth must prevail, had quietly joined forces with Bridget Spencer and Dr. John Finn Finnegan, two allies whose love for Liam burned as fiercely as her own. And together they had plotted to penetrate the very heart of the deception. Now, as the card key swiped open the lab's reinforced door, Finn's steady voice crackled in her earpiece. "In position, Taylor. Cameras are down, security looped. We have 10 minutes before the night shift does rounds." She pressed her back against the cold steel, inhaled deeply, and advanced into a corridor lined with frosted glass incubators and gleaming chrome equipment, every step bringing her closer to the evidence that would shatter Grace's empire of lies. Inside the restricted wing, Bridget hovered at a terminal, bypassing encrypted firewalls with the ease of a seasoned hacker. Taylor's eyes adjusted to the dim, blue-tinged glow of the refrigeration units where countless vials of anesthetic and pharmaceutical marvels lay catalogued. She crouched by the largest freezer, its digital display blinking at an impossibly low temperature, and flicked open the sealed drawer. There, amidst the regulated cold, lay rows of vials labeled only by obscure batch numbers, but one caught her eye. A vial marked Otakari Compound X, 27, the anesthetic so potent it could induce a state of suspended animation rather than true unconsciousness. It was the drug that had frozen Liam's body in the operating suite, a terrifying sedative masquerading as life-saving neurosurgery. With a gloved hand she lifted the vial, her breath catching as she realized the magnitude of Grace's betrayal. Unlike a craniotomy, which demanded surgical precision and risk, this chemical lie had spared Grace the messy truth of breaking bone and tissue, replacing it with a simple, undetectable paralysis from which Liam had never truly woken until the cameras stopped rolling. As Taylor pocketed the vial and prepared to photograph the lab's dose logs, Bridget's triumphant whisper crackled through the earpiece. "I've got server access, downloaded emails, order forms, everything." Grace Buckingham authorized the acquisition of X-27, and the line went dead. A faint click echoed in the corridor as a silent alarm tripped, the telltale sensors in the doorframe detecting unauthorized entry. Taylor froze, adrenaline surging as footsteps reverberated against the polished floor. She pressed herself into the shadow of a rolling cart, heart hammering, and watched through the glass walls as a silhouette approached. A tall figure in a white lab coat, hair cropped short, the unmistakable profile of Reese Buckingham, his expression unreadable, but his presence an unmistakable link in the chain of conspiracy. He bent to adjust a thermostat, his back to the entrance, and Taylor realized with a jolt that Reese had not only colluded with Grace, but had overseen the storage and handling of the anesthetic itself. Her breath caught as she snapped photos of him on her phone, the flash muted by a hush filter, and then she straightened, ready to confront him, when another alarm blared. Red lights strobed down the hallway, and distant voices, security guards, called out in urgent tones. Summoning every ounce of resolve, Taylor stepped into the corridor, vial and photographs clutched against her chest. "Reese," she called, her voice echoing between the sterile walls. He whirled as Finn and Bridget emerged from the shadows, Finn's eyes blazing with righteous fury. "Step away from the freezer," Finn warned, voice calm but lethal. Reese's face went pale as he recognized Taylor's incredulous glare. "You, a doctor, what are you doing here?" he demanded, but his tone lacked conviction. Taylor advanced, raising the vial so that the red warning label caught the strobing light. This, she said, voice low and steady, is the anesthetic you used to simulate Liam's brain surgery. Grace never cut bone. She froze him in place, let the cameras roll, and then stitched him up so no one would suspect a thing. You enabled her, Reese. You're both criminals. The hallway lights flared as security guards rounded the corner, weapons holstered but ready, their radios crackling with orders to secure the intruders. With no time left to negotiate, Finn lunged forward and pinned Reese's arms behind his back, while Bridget retrieved the hard drive containing time-stamped email trails between Adhikari Labs and Spencer Publications. Taylor stepped back and spoke into her phone, capturing every moment on video. This is Detective Taylor Hayes of FCPD. I'm arresting Grace Buckingham and Reese Buckingham for conspiracy, medical fraud, and endangering a patient's life. Surrender now. Reese struggled, eyes wild, as guards cuffed him and read him his rights. Taylor's voice remained unwavering, documenting each infraction on live feed, ensuring the world would see the full extent of the betrayal. These vials, she told the assembled security team and the hidden cameras, will be submitted as evidence of an attempt to murder by deception. Outside, the sirens of official police vehicles wailed closer, summoned by Taylor's swift call. In the sterile glare of Adhikari's corridors, under the watchful gaze of forensic teams already flooding the scene, the final act of Grace's masquerade was unmasked. As Taylor stepped out into the cool night air, lab coat dusted with the residue of her battle, she allowed herself a moment to breathe. Bridget and Finn fell into step beside her, their expressions a mixture of relief and sorrow. They had saved Liam from the doctor's charade, but uncovered wounds far deeper than any scalp incision. He deserves the truth, Taylor said, tucking the X-27 vial into an evidence bag. He deserves to know who betrayed him. In the distance, flashing lights painted the lab's facade in urgent reds and blues as Grace, confronted with irrefutable proof and facing charges more damning than any staged surgery, was escorted out in cuffs, her white coat stained by the shadow of her own deception. Reese's angry protests trailed behind him, but the evidence. Taylor's high-definition photographs, the confiscated logs, the live feed of his arrest, would speak louder than any denial. And as the night swallowed the last echoes of the raid, Taylor understood that justice had been served not by scalpels or staged operations, but by the quiet courage to uncover truth in a realm built on lies. The road ahead for Liam would be long, paved with therapy sessions and soul-searching confessions, but at last, the foundation of his healing would be firm. The knowledge that those who loved him risks everything to protect him from the greatest threat of all, the betrayal of the ones he trusted most. The sun had barely crested the horizon when the call came. An anonymous partner of Grace Buckingham, known only by a cryptic codename buried in legal files, had been found dead in a rented townhouse just blocks from the courthouse, and the scene was bloodstained proof that someone meant to stop the trial at any cost. By the time Bill Spencer's black Escalade belted down the Palmline Boulevard, police tape fluttered like a menacing banner across the doorway, reporters clustered at the curb, and forensic teams scoured the tile floors for every whisper of evidence. Bill's heart pounded in his ears. In his mind he saw Liam's hollow eyes when confronted with the truth about Grace's fraud, Liam's fragile hope for closure. And he wondered, not for the first time since this nightmare began, whether the line between justice and vengeance had irrevocably blurred. A lead detective met him at the threshold, her expression grim. "Mr. Spencer," she said, voice low. "You'll want to see this." Inside, beneath the harsh glare of fluorescent lights, the partner lay sprawled across an expensive Persian rug, a single gunshot wound to the chest. On the wooden console nearby, a half-empty martini glass trembled. A leather briefcase lay open, its papers scattered like driftwood. And on the slender end table, a single fingerprint in smudged ink bore Bill's own thumbprint, an imprint he did not recall leaving. Entangled in the fabric of the victim's cuff was a fine strand of wool dyed in the unmistakable crimson hue of Sheila Carter's favorite scarf. The news detonated across every channel. Bill Spencer implicated in the murder of a key witness, Sheila tangentially tied by the fiber analysis, and Grace Buckingham, still under indictment for medical fraud. Now with a dead partner whose silence would have tipped the trial immediately in her favor. The headlines fractured into rival narratives: Spencer in bloodstained scandal, Sheila's scarf at murder scene, who silenced Grace's partner? Social media erupted in conspiracy theories, and the corridors of both Spencer Publications and Forrester Creations buzzed with nervous energy. Brooke Logan, Bill's ex and mother to their twin daughters, sagged against the marble foyer as the first reporters pounded on her threshold. Wyatt, his voice hoarse from sleepless nights, paced the upstairs hallway phone to ear, trying to rally allies and lawyers alike. Liam, newly sober and fragile, received the news in the sterile calm of his rehab center. His world tipped again on its axis, and he gripped the arms of his chair until his knuckles went white. Across town, Steffi Forrester watched the live feeds from the Forrester boardroom, her expression a mask of icy calculation. This was the moment she had longed for, a crisis that could bury her rivals once and for all, yet she felt a tremor of unease. If Bill were truly a murderer, what darkness lurked beneath that charismatic facade? And if Sheila's silken threads had woven her into this tapestry of doom, what lengths would she go to protect her secrets? Meanwhile, Dr. John Finn Finnegan, Liam's friend, his confidant, and a sworn protector of truth, received an urgent summons to the police precinct. The detective's evidence folder lay open before him, a forensic report detailing the fingerprint match and fiber analysis. Finn's jaw clenched as he skimmed the findings. Grace's partner had been set to testify that Grace and Reese had conspired to drug Liam with the paralytic X-27 compound, a revelation that would have shattered the Buckingham legacy forever. Now, silenced in death, the partner left behind only a cryptic notebook filled with half-legible notes: Project Lazarus, Code Red, Lab X completion. The implication was clear. Someone wanted the trial derailed, and they were willing to kill to achieve that end. When the detective mentioned Bill's print, Finn's mind raced back to the night he'd confronted Bill over that frozen-in-place surgery deception. Bill had denied any violence, but Finn remembered the hardness in his eyes. And Sheila, what had she been doing that would place her threads on the body? Her vendetta against the Spencers and Forresters ran deep. She had once tried to destroy Steffi with a sickle blade, and now her signature scarf might be evidence of yet another atrocity. Finn left the precinct with a heavy burden, to protect the innocent, to shield Liam from further trauma, and to uncover the killer before the next life was lost. Within hours, the three factions Spencer, Forrester, and Finnegan found themselves drawn into a vortex of suspicion that threatened to swallow them whole. At Spencer Publications, a hastily convened board meeting descended into acrimony as Bill insisted on his innocence, insisting that someone had planted his print and Sheila's fibers to frame him. Caroline Spencer, his estranged daughter and a seasoned litigator, paced the length of the conference table, her suit pristine but her temper frayed. "We cannot simply ride this out," she snapped. "If the DA believes Bill had motive to kill, they'll freeze assets, subpoena records, and freeze out the company." Marcus Forrester, seated next to Caroline, exchanged a glance with Thomas Forrester, who had been Bill's close ally before family ties had snapped like brittle silk. Perhaps, Marcus ventured carefully, we should offer cooperation to the investigation. Show them we have nothing to hide. But Caroline's glare silenced him. "No one cooperates until we know exactly who's behind this," she said. "Because if we hand over files, the killer could cover their tracks and slip away." Across the divide, at Forrester Creations, Steffi and Hope Logan met in the echoing vault of the design archives, where rows of gowns on mannequins watched like silent jurors. Hope's eyes were red-rimmed. She had just emerged from a day of crisis management for Bill's trial and now faced the specter of murder. "I know how this looks," Hope murmured, tracing her fingertip along the seam of a prototype evening dress. "But Bill would never kill." Steffi folded her arms, the lines of her tailored jacket as sharp as her suspicion. "I want to believe that," she said, "but look at the facts. Fingerprint, fibers, someone wanted to destroy him." Behind them, Ridge Forrester sharpened his gaze at the forensic report on his tablet. "We can't pick sides," he said, voice low. "Our families are intertwined too deeply. Finn's friend, Liam, is Bill's son. If we get this wrong, we lose everything." Beneath those words lay a current of dread. If the killer truly walked among them, then every alliance, every vow, every whispered confidence could be twisted into fuel for the flames of suspicion. By nightfall, the three camps converged at the impromptu war room in the back offices of Spencer Publications, a sterile expanse of exposed concrete and flickering monitors streaming police interviews and social media hysteria. Brooke Logan, her maternal empathy pitted against her fear, paced near a whiteboard scrawled with names and timelines. Wyatt and Finn stood on either side of her, their shoulders squared like bodyguards of truth. Bill leaned against a steel desk, arms folded, his face a hard mask of resolve. Caroline rubbed her temples. "We need an independent review," she said. "Forensics, third-party investigators, background checks on every employee and affiliate." Hope, invited into the room as an uneasy truce, rubbed her chin. "And Sheila?" she asked. "If her wool is at the scene, doesn't that mean she's involved?" Bill's eyes flicked to a photograph on the wall. Sheila's scarred smile, immortalized from a tabloid cover. "She's dangerous," he said, "but framing me for murder? She'd have more to lose than I would." Suddenly, Finn's phone buzzed. He checked the screen, recognized the number, and looked up, his face pale. "It's Liam," he said. "He wants to meet." The room exhaled collectively. Moments later, Liam appeared in the doorway, thinner than before, the tremor of vulnerability etched into his posture. He clutched a sheaf of papers. Handwritten witness statements, line-by-line walkthroughs of the night his partner died before the surgery deception was revealed. "I did some digging in my own way," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "I accessed the partner's final journal, hidden in a locked folder on my rehab center's server. He wrote about a meeting the night before he died at the Blue Orchid Lounge. He named 3 attendees, Grace, Reese, and another conspirator." Liam paused, eyes sweeping the assembled faces. "Bill, Hope, Finn, Steffi, Caroline." Hope swallowed. "Who's the third name?" Liam unfolded the pages. "Carter Ridge." Gasps ricocheted off the concrete walls. Ridge Forrester stared at the paper, then at his wife, Steffi, who pressed a hand to her mouth. Finn's jaw clenched. Bill frowned, the muscles in his neck taut. "That's impossible," Ridge said finally. "I was home that night." Liam's eyes shone with the weight of his own uncertainty. "That's what he wrote," Liam said, voice cracking. "But the witness, a bartender who cleaned up after the meeting, says he saw you leave with the partner, talking in hushed tones." Steffi's breath caught. "Dad," she whispered. "No," Ridge said, voice firm. "They were business rivals." "Yes, we met to discuss a hostile takeover of Forrester's new tech fabrics. But I left before midnight." Liam looked from Ridge to the others. "The bartender gave a description," he said. "Tall, broad shoulders, that smell of sandalwood cologne." Finn, stepping forward, nodded. "That matches Bill." Bill's face darkened. "I know why you think it points to me," he said, "but I was at home with Caroline. She can corroborate." Caroline lifted her head. "He's right," she said. "We were in the living room, watching old family films. But we didn't leave any prints at that townhouse. Someone lifted your print, Bill, and planted it there." Silence fell. Outside, sirens wailed anew, the trial's stakes crumbling with each passing second. In the center of the room, Liam dropped the notebook onto the table. So it wasn't Bill, he said. And if it wasn't Ridge, then who? The assembled faces turned to Sheila, her name now whispered like a curse, yet Hope shook her head. Sheila's motive was always personal, she said. But this partner was anonymous. No one would know him. No one could trace him. Finn's eyes met Bill's, then Steffi's, then Brooke's. We're all suspects, he said quietly. And the real killer is probably smiling right now, knowing we'll tear each other apart while they slip away. A heavy tension settled, as if the walls themselves braced for the storm to come. Brooke closed her eyes. We need to unite, she said. Set aside our feuds. Find the truth together. Bill straightened, resolve returning to his shoulders. Together, he echoed. Liam nodded, fragile but determined. For once, he said, we hunt as one pack. And as the flickering monitors cast shifting shadows across their faces, the true murderer sat somewhere in Los Angeles, perhaps sipping a quiet drink at the Blue Orchid Lounge, watching every live-streamed crisis erupt and smiling at the chaos they had wrought. Knowing that when suspicion seethed through the Spencer, Forrester, and Finnegan camps, no one would notice the hand that drew the strings until it was too late.